So we lived in that thing, which is 550 square feet for 4.5 years. That gave us all of these ideas about living with less, because it had so little space. You had to pick exactly what you needed, and that was it.
Did you like it?
We loved it. It was just a small cabin on the beach. And then we bought the land next door. And then the idea came to me that maybe we should build something that is so minimal, modest, first of all to fit the site, but second of all, just as an experiment in how one could live in a very simple way. The house is 18 feet wide. It's a very narrow house. It's sort of the iconic house shape. It had to be this high because we wanted to use the top of that white box as a living space. So it's dropped as low as we can make it. And the key to this thing is that that white box is offset. And it provided us with an entranceway that was more interesting and also a side place. So that narrow slot extends throughout the whole house. Because we wanted this house to be small, it also had to be very limited in its visual noise. So all the materials are simple as possible. The roof and the walls are all the same material. The only intervention is this white box. All the basic program elements are enclosed in this white box. The bedroom, the bathroom, the stairwell, they're all, and the kitchen, they're all enclosed in this white element. So that contains everything and sort of organizes the whole house. It also goes through the floor and it shows up as part of the foundation. So it penetrates all the way down. The entry is right adjacent to the master bedroom. It's a very awkward space. So instead of putting a door in, we decided to use curtains, which mitigates the problem of needing some privacy, but it keeps this space open, which is kind of, I think, a relief for the entry. It makes this space more special, I think. Plus, when you're in that bedroom, an all-white room is very, very calming. And those are old Singer sewing machine lamps. And we repurposed them and put a steel base on them. If you walk through here, you can start to sight down in both directions. This leads you to the outside. That continues throughout the whole house.
Oh, wow. It's interesting because this is a sliver right here.
It's a sliver, but it's so important to relieve the pressure in the house. So this little escape is like a steam escape valve. And then we have a powder room, master bathroom, and we separated the sink from the toilet and the shower just to give it a sense of relief and more interest than just containing it all in one space. That's a salvaged shower door. And each time you go all the way in, the reference, I think, to the long, narrow space becomes changing. You also have this vertical space. So this is a very dynamic little space.
It's a surprise to come back and find this.
And it just happens because you moved the white box off center. And then the kitchen is an open-end part of this white box. But that had to be white so that it related to the box. The white container within this space houses all the program requirements. So all you have is negative space around it, which is really extending the idea of a simple house. It's not just a room. These little wooden blocks are just blocks of fir that have split, and they're not really sanded that well. And also just making space proportional to the human body. I think that's the most important thing. So this is a very inexpensive way to make an open stairway. It's a wall with suspended treads. This is an old school, a roll-up blackboard. And then I love this space. From the landing, you see another dimension to this slot space.
So interesting because, you know, people often just want to use up every last sliver.
Well, that space is almost more important to me than the rest of the spaces in the house.
But now you see things.
Yeah, these are things that I've collected over the years that are sort of like my connection to history, to the past. These are all forms for spinning metal. So this is, say, wind speed indicator. That's the old tape measure. That's when they... But I really do like the old stuff. I mean, when's the last time you saw a wristwatch that's a compass? They're things I think had an intrinsic value that I find hard to find today in the things that we buy off the shelf. I mean, look at the screws on this thing. It's made very, very well, and it has a nice feel to it. This array of jars, this guy had a collection of seeds he died and his estate wanted to get rid of. They're the most interesting things, and they also represent this guy.
Wow.
See, there's a lot. There's a lot to look at here.
Yeah. But you know, it's really kind of arresting to see this here because you don't have a lot of things. You come after seeing so little downstairs, you come up here and see.
Well, I don't know whether or not it was real or not, but since I was raised in a concentration camp for the first 6 months, my theory is that we had nothing there, and so I became obsessed with little things.
Where were you?
I was at a camp in Idaho called Minidoka, and it was a tarpaper barracks. Wow. And I think they were long shed buildings, much like these things are. They were long buildings, you know. I don't know how many families lived in them, but they were all partitioned off. You had one window and a stove area, and I think there were basically curtains that separated you from one family to the other. And maybe it's because there was nothing there that the visuals, I wanted to make everything as simple as I could. I don't even know now, but you know, you kind of think back to some of the things that you kind of consider when you're thinking about everything in life, and you wondered how that experience was affecting you. It probably was. So this is my wife's moon viewing porch, because the moon comes up there, and it's just a great porch to look at the moon. Wow. Looking even down this way, even the coat hooks are part of the design. Sometimes you really don't need a big coat closet. This prevents a lot of people from bringing a lot of stuff. I try to go back to the simplest thing, and usually resonates in a way that you say, okay, that's enough. Okay, let's go down.
Sure. I'm just loving all these angles. It's so many angles.
Yeah, I do think geometry is very important. We could have made the house longer, but we would have had to take that tree out. We were thinking about how much we should prune the tree. And actually, we love the fact that there's more branches than one would expect, but it's also the coolest room outside because the branches provide protection from the wind. This is one of my favorite little rooms here.
A quad room.
Yeah, it's an outside room. Yeah. A lot of the reason for the color of the wood is because it matches the bark of the trees. And then the fact that there's no coverings on the windows and the windows are minimal, you do get a sense that you are sitting in the trees. I mean, it's very, very special though to live so close to a tree. You know, it's like being up in a tree house. The whole house is built on a 2-foot grid, so everything has a proportion and an alignment, even vertically as well as horizontally. That line goes all the way up and across, and it lands in the center of that column. And I think that contributes to the sense of calm also, where things, because they're aligned and justified, you don't have to sort of justify it in your mind. It's already done for you, and it's another way of eliminating visual noise. See this grain? When we made these windows, we made them out of wood that is structural wood, so it was not a real refined piece of wood. But this grain, and this grain, or this grain, they all feel like they're all part of the same block of wood. And because of that, it looks like the windows could have been carved out of the wall. See, oh yeah, it's just beautiful now, the light. I don't know. Oh yeah, see, the tree starts to at least to animate in a completely different way. I think what we try to do is we eliminate all the visual noise we can. So all the plug placements, all the little accessories, all of those things are considered. and they're made to disappear or blend in with the surroundings. Because they affect you visually. You don't necessarily recognize it, but people do recognize the fact when they're not there. When they disappear in their mind, all of a sudden they wonder why it feels so calm in here. It's because there is no accessories to cloud your eye. You need to have places where you could go, where you understand what simplicity will give you back. I think part of it is you should find a place where you can understand what little you can live with and then try to do that. And you need constant reinforcement. We live in a society that is not giving you any time to think about it. You can order anything from Amazon too quickly on a whim, and then you wonder why you needed it. So we are experiencing the house and understanding again what it was like to live in a small house.